sweaty Leddy. Get sweaty Leddy. Get sweaty Leddy. Get sweaty Leddy.
Get Sweaty with Leddy, a wellness program about pain management. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Get Sweaty with Leddy. My guest today I met up at Sauna Days at Larsemont Cottages in Two Harbors, Minnesota, put on by the sound father himself, Glenn Auerbach. You probably saw some of the content that we released for Sauna Days, but I'm excited to finally have an episode with someone that I met organically through sitting in a sauna. So we've got Katie Kaufmann and her amazing story about how she was able to fix her pain and continue to help others. So join us inside and let's get our sweat on. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Get Sweaty with Leddy. I am here with today's guest, Katie Kaufmann, whom I met in this very sauna up in Larsemont Cottages at Sauna Days, put on by one of our previous guests, Glenn Auerbach. And we were just sitting in the sauna and, naturally the conversation is fantastic and it led to why I'm in a sauna, and I talked about pain, and it just so happens that Katie has a very unique story of pain in her own right, so much so that it is now her purpose to help others rid themselves of chronic pain. So
yeah,
I'm excited to hear the story.
Yeah, I don't know that it's so unique, and the more people I talk to, the more commonalities I find with people's story about pain, but mine happened to be my own journey, which is always, everyone's is unique.
And I love that because, I didn't even ask you about your story of pain. So this is all going to be an organic conversation here. And, even though you say that your story is common with others, like, I love that. I don't want pain to be this unique thing where it's only this situation of a total unique circumstance that happens to an individual. There are just such common patterns that bring us into pain. Mm-hmm. And if you think yours is common, then I'm excited to hear that because it's probably going to relate to a lot of people out there.
Yeah, well, hopefully people recognize parts of it. Yeah, so what would be helpful if I just started at the very beginning?
Yeah, let's see. So I like to ask people, what brings you into pain? And a lot of that can either just be when did pain become in your life? Like, when did your relationship with pain start? Because we always get little bumps and bruises, and there's things that happen to us as kids and they hurt, but actual pain that is lasting, when did that begin for you? When you started to recognize, wow, this is not good.
Yeah, I mean, for most of my childhood, I didn't have many injuries. I never broke a bone, never, really hurt myself significantly. And this journey started in college when I was about 20. I was studying abroad and I went to Italy and I was doing a summer program there. And as kids in the 90s did, we had these ginormous backpacks that we would carry around with us.
Was it a JanSport?
No, it was not a mountaineering kind of backpack, not a JanSport kind of thing. But many years of JanSport before then might have led up to problems. Anyway, so my program was over. I was carrying this backpack around Italy, touring around, and every time I lifted it up, it was just ugh. But I didn't think anything of it. I came home, and I was on a little bit of a pause before returning to Italy for the fall semester, and I went out for a run, and I came home, and my parents had just bought one of those crazy exercise machines. I don't know how to describe them, but they're the ones that were you kind of push and you stand up. The ones that are kind of that. Those ones. They look very awkward, and I was like, I'll try this thing out. And I tweaked something in my lower back, and just being young, I was like, it'll hurt for a few days and it'll go away, but it did not go away. And a week later, I left on my trip for a whole semester in Florence, and I was miserable the whole time. I went to go see a doctor there. They gave me some muscle relaxers, some pain medication, which there you take by like powder, which is strange.
Yeah.
And, I was miserable. I was sleeping on the floor in the host family's house that I was staying with, just because the bed was like too soft.
I know what that's all about.
Yeah. So it continued. Italy was great, but it was also really challenging just because I was standing up in all of my classes, and mostly like sitting was the biggest challenge. And we'd go on these field trips, on these bus trips, and I'd be like just itching to get off the bus as soon as I could. Nothing was helping, no stretching, no medication, and I was far from home, far from like all of my social supports. Then, let's see, so that sort of the semester wrapped up. I came home, I had a couple scans. They saw like, okay, it looks like you have a herniated disc. We can sign you up for physical therapy. I did some of that at home, but I had a spring semester planned abroad. So I was in England for a spring semester. I was going to physical therapy in England. They like crafted me this like back brace that was like hard plastic that they molded to my body. It was like sort of like a, I don't know, straitjacket kind of thing. Yeah. I was in a theater program, so I couldn't participate in a lot of like the activities that required a lot of movement.
Yeah.
And again, I was sleeping on the floor, standing in classes, or laying down, and I was pretty miserable. And at that point, they were like, okay, well, you can do some, steroid injections and see, if those help. I got 3 really painful epidurals. Nothing.
The epidural was one of the worst experiences of my life as
it's
well.
like a needle this long and this thick.
Yeah.
It is really painful.
Yeah.
Going into also the most painful area in your body.
Yeah.
Already.
Did you have successful results from that? Like how?
No.
What was the duration in between your epidural shots? Like of time?
I think it was about a few weeks to a month. Like they said like, okay, usually if it doesn't work, it's not going to work. So like we'll do it 3 times, and usually 3rd time's a charm if nothing else works. And there were no charms involved. And
they're just so casual to say it might not work, but we're going to stab you with this thing 3 times and see how it goes,
Yeah.
It's such a ridiculous scenario where you're reliant on a giant needle to stab your spine to relieve pain that's probably shooting down your legs.
Yeah.
It just doesn't... How invasive is that,
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was kind of like, sciatic pain, so lower back and then shooting down my left leg. So a lot of like compensation over that time period and just funky stuff. So that chapter ended and I came home, or no, I didn't come home yet, because I was determined to have my
your semester.
My semester and my year abroad. It was really a year abroad, and I had signed up for another summer program in Italy, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to travel to France, and I'm going to go to Spain, and then I'll wind up in Italy when this program starts. And I had the tiniest little backpack you could think of, and even that was way too heavy. And after a week in France, in the pouring rain in May, I was like, Mom, I think I need to come home.
Oh, man.
And I came home and I rested up, and I got, some more doctor's visits in. They're like, yeah, we think you're going to need surgery. And I saw two neurosurgeons, and they were like, yeah, you should probably just get this herniated part of your disc removed. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to Italy and then do this summer program and then come back and do it, which I did. I slept on the floor in Sorrento for the summer, and I was also in pain, but just determined to see it through. So I came back, I got surgery. I missed maybe like the first month of school. And then I moved back to Colorado where I was going to school and, did all the PT, did all the recovery stuff. Some of the initial pain was gone. Some of that like sciatic pain was gone, but pain persisted. It was now kind of moving into the other side of my lower back. It was moving into my mid back, upper back, and it was just kind of staying with me. And no matter what I did, it was just kind of there. So fast forward like the next 20 some odd years, and I literally did all the things. I did every kind of body work you can think of. I did, things like hypnosis. I did, acupuncture. I did, all the stretching, all of the PT, all of the sort of alternative functional medicine, functional movement, everything. And, things slightly improved, but it wasn't really until I kind of learned about the mind-body connection that I hit the last little linchpin of my pain recovery. So that's kind of what I do now.
That's so cool. So the mind-body connection is something that I specifically talk about in my book as like the first two pillars of pain management, and they do kind of run in sync,
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to hear how they ran in sync for you, because for me it was paramount that my body needed to move in order for my mind to be at rest.
Yeah.
And I use the term now, my body needs to be physiologically sound in order to be psychologically capable to attack the tasks at hand that were dealt with every single day.
Yeah.
And I commend you for being overseas and still dealing with that pain and powering through and being who you are, because it's so hard that it can take people away where they're not going to go on that trip. They're going to just take the easy route out and maybe start taking pain pills to excess and really go a different direction. But, your connection with pain and your willingness to live your life has put you in this seat right here.
Yeah.
Talking about pain.
I think it was really important. One of the things is that I really never stopped moving. I mean, obviously there were days where like I was definitely in rough shape and in bed, but like I never stopped moving my body, and I think that did help. After college I went to physical theater school. I was doing like acrobatics and really like intense physical work and in a lot of pain at the same time, but I knew that there was like nothing structurally wrong. And I think that's one of the really important points that I'll get into, that like there was like I wasn't going to be breaking myself further by doing that work.
I love it. Well, let's toss some more logs on this fire here, get this thing rolling, and then we'll get into more of your amazing story.
Cool.
All right. We are back for round 2 of our sweat, and I'm seeing some real nice flames in that sauna stove, that Kuma stove. I imagine we're going to be pretty nice and sweaty here by the end of this. So we've heard, kind of where pain developed in your life. So how did you get over that hump, and how did that light this fire for you to do what you do now, and that's help people with their own pain?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to piece together like how it all happened, how I got out, because it was a long journey. As I said, it was like 20 years of like trying different things, and I'd find, thought something would help for a little while and then stop helping. For a while I was like driving 45 minutes to get really intense like rolfing treatments, and I'd feel great afterwards, but by the time I got home it would have worn off. So
and it's like it's hard to find any treatment where when you're done you're not going into some seated position for an extended period of time. I've totally found that to be like there needs to be a room where there's like focused movement after a treatment like that, so you're not just sitting.
So there was all of that was kind of attacking sort of the physical aspect, like, treating the muscles, treating the fascia, treating, movement, range of movement, all of that stuff. But I started to hear some information about basically how the nervous system can kind of keep us activated, keep pain activated, and things like traumatic events or other just sort of sensitivity can lead to the nervous system just kind of staying activated and sending pain signals. And I thought, like, wow, that's really interesting. There's something to that for me that resonated. Just always been like a very sensitive person and always like felt things very intensely and deeply, and maybe had some small t traumas, but nothing like earth shattering. I read Gabor Mate's book, When the Body Says No. That was like one of the big like linchpins of like, oh, people have all of these ailments, and it's not necessarily because like there is something structurally or diseased in them. It's because their nervous system is responding to stress in a very specific way. So that kind of sent me down this path of mind-body healing, and that was kind of the last, 15% of my journey. Like I was, functional, living life, still, in pain most days, but, I could deal with it. Like just, you get used to it, you get used to like that feeling.
Yeah, you're retraining your brain to just be comfortable with pain.
Yeah. But this little last bit was like, oh, okay. So what I learned is that, when pain becomes chronic, and there's really no structural issue, and by structural issue, I mean like cancer or, some acute tear or some, other bacterial reason that like things are firing off pain signals, then it's basically that your brain has learned pain, and it's learned that like it's going to respond with this danger signal of pain at any point that it gets triggered with sensitivity. So it's basically like a misinterpretation of signals from exterior or your skin, or even interior signals like emotions or stress that kind of says, there's something not quite right here, and I'm going to send pain. And usually like that signal works well. Like if I was going to put my hand on the sauna stove here, that signal would tell me, ow, go run away. Like that's dangerous, even before I actually burned myself. But what's happening a lot of times with chronic pain is that signal is like responding to non-dangerous stimuli as if it was dangerous. So learning a bit about that made a lot of sense to me. And then learning how to get out of that was like a bit of a dance, because there was no specific tool at the time that I learned about. Later I learned about a specific tool that I help other people use now too. So first of all, it's about like okay, how do I get my nervous system to learn to relax? How do I expose myself to these stimulus that my brain is interpreting as dangerous with a lens of like, this is not dangerous, this is safe, I'm okay. Actually, and sometimes that fear of like being in pain can be the thing that our brain is responding to as dangerous.
Yeah.
So that is kind of the last bit, like just this gentle exposure, and then also really deep, like learning how to like calm, soothe my body, soothe my nervous system, and a whole lot of self-compassion along the journey of the process, because it is a long process.
Totally.
And it's not the same for everybody, and what works for me might not work for some of the people I work with. So I have like a huge toolbox now of lots of techniques and resources, and I kind of help people like choose their own adventure along the way.
And it's so right that there isn't one thing that's going to cure everyone. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
And we're all individuals. We're all different. So there's going to be things that we respond to differently. Maybe it's a combination of wellness modalities that or techniques that are going to help you. Maybe it's a total just grab bag of all these different things that doesn't make sense for someone that's doing something else. But the point of the story is to exhaust all these non-invasive processes before going to the invasive process.
Yeah, and even, in my case, I had the invasive process, and that didn't work. And, statistics show that, like, back surgery fails, like, probably 85% of the time.
Yeah.
And maybe the 15% of its success is a placebo effect. So it's just not a really great option. And then that's for further trauma to your body. So even further reason for you to have a highly alert, activated, hypervigilant nervous system.
Man, what was your main technique or combination of techniques that you utilized?
So when I first started, like, there was really not a whole lot of information on this work that I do now, which is called pain reprocessing therapy. So what I did was use, mindful self-compassion. I did a lot of, sort of work on like just giving myself messages of safety, reminding myself I'm okay, I'm safe. I did work with movement. I joined a CrossFit gym, and I was like, okay, I know that there is really nothing structurally going on with my body that could, further injure me. Yes, I get sore. Yes, I hurt for days sometimes after a workout, but I know like I'm okay and I'm safe as long as I can kind of, keep gradually increasing my work. So, just the empowerment that gave me, that like I can move my body, I can lift heavy things, I can, do work. Yes, I might not be able to do it as efficiently as somebody who's never had pain, but like it's something. And if I can stay at it consistently, that's great. And then the other thing that I just sort of did was, continue to remind myself that like I really am okay, and experiencing difficult emotions, experiencing stress, doesn't have to be like a terrible thing. I can expose myself to that difficulty too, with a sense of like curiosity and ease, and knowing like this is not a permanent thing. This is like a state that passes in and out, and it's not my definition. One of the things I did kind of towards the very end of this healing journey was join Curable, which is an app that is focused on this neuroplastic pain or mind-body pain, or it's called many different things. It used to be called TMS. But I joined a group, and one of the first questions they asked in that group was about your identity. And there was a quote that really resonated with me, that which with which you identify becomes painful to lose. So stopping identifying myself as a chronic pain person or a pain identity, just saying this is something I'm experiencing today, was really like, oh, okay, this is experience, and that experience can shift and change.
I mean, I had this powerful moment when I decided that I wasn't going to let my previous pain identify me. I was going to let the work that I'm doing now to move on from pain identify me.
Yeah.
And that mentality, that switch has allowed me to, say, no, I have my pain under control.
Yeah.
There are going to be certain situations where something may arise, but I have the tools and I have the mindfulness to be able to counteract that with the positive things that I know that I can do for myself.
Yeah. And, one of the other interesting things is like the pain serves as a protector, and it can be protecting you from, the hot stove, but it could also be protecting you from dealing with stuff you don't want to deal with, like difficult emotions or, buried trauma or other things that feel very, very real and life-threatening to your brain. And by asking yourself, how is the pain serving me? Who would I have to be, or what would I have to do if pain wasn't there to protect me? That was a big eye-opening question for me too, because I look back, and before I had back pain, I had GI issues. And I was like, oh, so that was connected. This unsettled feeling that I had in college, even before I left,
Yep.
was connected. And the pain is protecting me from doing too much, going too far, needing to be perfect. I have a lot of my clients have a lot of perfectionism issues. I love how I just said that really unperfectionistically.
So if there's a client, they're do they come for you for a hour-long session?
Yeah.
Or I'm sure there's an inaugural or a starting point, and then you move on from there. What does that process look like?
I mean, generally, most people who come to me know a little bit about this mind-body connection already, or have read the book The Way Out by Alan Gordon, or have, dabbled a little bit in the pain science, the neuroscience of pain. But if they haven't, that's kind of where I start with them, really kind of sending them resources, explaining in my own words, how the brain works and how pain signals get sent and how pain becomes chronic. And then I go through an assessment form with them, and it also does things relates to any other past symptoms you might have had, like my GI issues, or when did that start, or what were your relationships like in childhood with your caregivers, and how you developed the way that you see yourself in the world as a result. If you lived in a household where you weren't always quite sure what kind of reaction you were going to get from somebody, that sets up your nervous system to be highly sensitized anyway, to always be looking out for, not disrupting or not, stepping on eggshells. So some of those things that we learn in that assessment form kind of help us target okay, this seems to be the area that might be most helpful for us to work in.
Cool. I love it. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah.
And we're about to get some contrast therapy now to
Yeah,
reward us from
I'm so
all
excited.
of this heat that we have been enduring. So let's go hop in Lake Minnetonka.
Sweet. Oh, it's just like that spa treatment where they eat your dead skin off your toes.
Oh man,
Again, it's not freezing cold, but it's definitely contrasty.
Okay.
It feels pretty incredible. Got a little weed growth going on here that I'm gonna have to jump in and take care of pretty soon. Oh yeah. We've had so much rain that it's nice and deep, so I can get a little full water workout in under here, kicking the legs, moving the arms. That's always a benefit of contrast therapy in the summertime, is just getting a little workout, because when you're moving your body in the freezing cold waters, it makes it more cold and harder to withstand. So kind of nice to do this in the summertime. How you feeling, Katie?
Good.
This,
Get my water treading.
that's, yeah. This is treading with Leddy. Tread with lead.
Yeah.
Getting sweaty with Leddy. We're
That'll
tready
be
with Leddy.
The next
Yeah, that's the offshoot.
spin-off.
That's the YouTube
Yeah.
channel number 2. When's the last time you were in a lake?
Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which lake? Oh, Twin Lake. You were just talking about that, yeah.
Golden Valley. Yeah. It's a nice one because it's spring fed.
Yeah, it is a good lake. I've had some friends that grew up on Twin Lake, so it's kind of
Nice.
cool how it splits the highway there.
Yeah. I've never been on the other side of the highway. I didn't realize that.
Take this little coontail here. All right, let's call that a plunge. Get back into the sauna. Oh yeah, never get enough of that. Good for the soul. Top. All right, we'll see you in the sauna. We are back in our Excelsior sauna after a glorious plunge into Lake Minnetonka. How are you feeling, Katie?
Good. I want to go back in.
I know. I think I am gonna go back in. It's too nice. I just wanted to live in there today, but we got a lot of stuff to do, so we had to come back in and wrap this thing up. But before we kind of get into where everyone can find you, I do have to comment on this fantastic sauna hat that you made.
Yes.
She also. Yes, tell us about how you got into this, because I love sauna hats. Everybody loves sauna hats, but to find something so unique like this is very rare.
Well, I started doing sauna as like a form of my own, health and wellness journey, and I've been a member of 612 Sauna, which is a sauna co-op in Minneapolis, and it goes to different locations similar to this one. It's a trailer, and I loved the sauna hats there. I got my own hat off of Amazon, and it was a cheap little hat, and I was like, I bet I could make a really cool one. So I taught myself how to do wet felting this past fall, and I just kind of really got into it. I got into like making all sorts of, designs and textures, and all these hats I make are also reversible. So you can have 2 hats in one. So I find that really fun. And it's just been a fun little creative journey. They're super labor intense, and they take about 6 hours to make. So it's like.
Do you go to a market and sell these, or are they just pretty much like giftables?
I sold them at Sauna Days this past fall. I'll probably make more to do that again. It's a little, fun side hustle for me, but it's. I think it's gonna be too labor intensive to really like make a living off of. But it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, on the main note, where if someone is like, gosh, this Katie is my hero, I need to go and meet her, how would they find you?
I have a website. It's called CoachKatieWellbeing.com. That's probably the best way. I used to do a lot of Instagram stuff. I don't do much anymore, but I'm still on there. It's CoachKatie.Wellbeing. And I work for the Pain Psychology Center, which is a company that's in California, but I work remotely through them, and they are the premier place in the United States where people do pain reprocessing therapy. So those 3 locations are probably the best bet of finding me.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with a semi-stranger on a sweaty bench and tell your story.
Absolutely.
I know that it's going to resonate with people. I know that it's going to, light some fire under someone to take their life back.
Yeah.
And to feel good.
So much of this journey is about, like, first of all, empowerment, like getting control over your own journey, not giving it to somebody else to fix you or take care of you, and like starting to learn like there are things that you can do for yourself, and it isn't hopeless, and it does shift and change, even though it feels hard right now.
That's right. Well, it's been a great episode. I will look forward to seeing you all next time. Stay sweaty.